So, in 2023, you have this big market-leading company, Restore PLC, and they just went through a year of massive change. We're talking tough decisions, a huge strategic pivot, the works. So what we're going to do is break down their latest annual report to really get a handle on how they're planning to navigate this storm. And this really is the central question, isn't it? Restore is a leader in its field, but 2023 threw some serious curveballs their way. So what happens when a top player gets knocked back on its heels? Let's dig in and find out. Okay, this one number, it pretty much sets the stage for everything. A statutory loss of £29 million. So what does that actually mean? Well, in simple terms, after you factor in all the expenses, taxes, one-off costs, this was the bottom line. It's a really stark figure, right? It tells you immediately that 2023 was not business as usual, not even close. It was a year that was crying out for some dramatic action.
That number just forces you to look closer at what was happening inside the company. To really understand their turnaround plan, you have to grasp the sheer scale of the transition that went down in 2023. It was a truly pivotal moment for them.
And when I say changes, I mean they were sweeping. We're talking a complete overhaul right at the very top. A new chair, a new CFO, and they even brought back a previous CEO. And all of this leadership shuffle, it's happening at the same time as that big financial loss and the really tough call to cut the workforce by about 7%. You can see how it's all part of this massive strategic shift to get back to the company's core.
All this talk about getting back to basics might leave you wondering, well, what exactly is the core business of Restore PLC? Before we get to the recovery, let's make sure we understand the foundation they're building on.
In a nutshell, this is what they do, and the key phrase to lock onto here is mission critical. Restore handles the stuff that companies and governments absolutely cannot afford to lose or mess up. We're talking everything from priceless historical documents to essential IT hardware.
So the business is basically split into two main divisions. On one side, you've got digital and information management. Think of that as managing, storing, and digitizing huge archives. And on the other side, there's secure lifecycle services, which covers, the whole shebang, securely shredding documents, recycling old IT gear, and even moving entire offices or laboratories.
Now, that all sounds a little abstract, so let's make it real. The best way to understand what Restore really does is to see it in action, from priceless historical archives to a simple palette of old laptops.
Okay, check this out. Restore was tasked with moving the BBC's entire National Heritage Archive. We are talking about a century's worth of British culture here, a project with absolutely zero room for error. And get this, the numbers behind this project are just staggering. We're talking 74 times kilometers of assets. They managed 2.7 million individual barcodes, built 9 brand new custom climate-controlled vaults, and they still managed to finish the whole thing ahead of schedule. It's just a perfect illustration of their expertise in these really complex, super high-stakes logistics projects.
And their skills aren't just limited to culture. They extend to cutting-edge science. In this next example, a major pharmaceutical company hired them to combine 16 different sites into one massive super laboratory. Just try to imagine the scale of that operation. It took 532 separate truckloads to get it done. And remember, this isn't just about moving desks and chairs. Each one of those trucks was filled with highly sensitive, super expensive laboratory equipment that had to be handled perfectly, all while making sure the client lost as little time and money as possible.
And it's not just about moving things around, it's about managing their entire life cycle. In this case, a public sector client had about 500 old MacBooks that they needed to get rid of, but they had to do it securely and sustainably.
This is just a fantastic visual of the circular economy in action. Instead of just shredding all of them, Restore's tech division went through and assessed every single laptop. An amazing 63% were able to be refurbished and sold, giving them a whole second life. Another 27% were broken down for their valuable components, making sure absolutely nothing went to landfill.
So, now that we have a good feel for their core capabilities, let's circle back to that tough year. How exactly is the new leadership planning to turn things around? What's the playbook?
This quote from the returning CEO, Charles Skinner, is so important. The message here is all about reassurance. He's saying, look, despite all the turbulence, the fundamental skills we just saw in those case studies, the company's core strengths, are still there. The strategy is all about building on that solid ground. Now, part of that strategy means tackling some external headwinds head-on. This chart shows a major problem for their data shred business. The price they get for recycled paper pulp just tanked in 1 year, and that directly hits their profits.
It's a market force they can't control, but it's one they absolutely have to adapt to. And here's a perfect example of that adaptation in action. This is their clear 4-point plan for the technology division. It's really straightforward. First, they're getting out of the low-margin IT recycling game. Second, they're going to prioritize relationships with those high-end blue-chip customers. Third, they're creating a specialist sales team to partner up with the big IT vendors. And finally, they're upskilling their own production team to get better at spotting the real value in the equipment they're handling. See, it's a really pragmatic shift from just chasing volume to focusing on value.
But the turnaround strategy isn't just about financials and operational fixes, it's also deeply tied to the company's core purpose, which they've laid out in this comprehensive ESG plan they're calling Restoring Our World. This framework is how they're organizing their entire sustainability and governance effort. It's a simple but really powerful structure, taking care of the planet, supporting their employees, and running a responsible, transparent business.
Under that Our Planet pillar, they've laid out a super clear roadmap to net zero. And this isn't some vague promise. It's a phased plan with short-term actions that leads to long-term goals for 2035 and then a full value chain target by 2050.
And this isn't just about future promises either. They're already showing real, tangible progress today. This number, 19.4%, that represents a huge improvement in their carbon intensity ratio. What that basically means is they're now generating each pound of revenue with a much smaller carbon footprint, which proves their initiatives are already having a real-world impact. And for the Our People pillar, it goes way beyond just safety checklists. This quote highlights the creation of Well-Being House, which is this holistic program designed to support employees across every aspect of their lives: financial, social, physical, and mental. It's a really human-centric approach. And that brings us right back to where we started, doesn't it? With that central question. After a year of just immense change, Restore has laid out its path forward. The plan is to double down on what they're truly good at, their core strengths, while weaving sustainability into the very fabric of the business. The strategy is set. Now the execution begins.